Welcome to A Student of Leadership, a micro-podcast where leaders are made one habit at a time. Hosted by Rob Adams, a leadership veteran with 30 years of experience, this podcast explores key concepts that define exceptional leadership. Each episode delves into a powerful word or strategy, offering practical insights and real-world stories. Whether you're just starting out or an experienced executive, join Rob as he guides you in learning, growing, and leading with purpose.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of A Student of Leadership. I'm Rob Adams, your host, and this is episode 71. We are closing out Q2, and we're going to be talking about the trust audit most leaders skip. This is the Q2 close episode. 13 weeks of the place-setting framework, 4 months of weekly content, 7 elements introduced with several on their second pass. The full table has been set for all of us. Parts of it we've been through twice, and we close Q2 the way we should, with the napkin. Dignity in the small moments. The element most leaders skip in leadership development, and the one their team will judge them by long after they have forgotten what the strategic plan was. On Monday, the leadership table on Substack, your newsletter. Yep, if you open it this week, the napkin at its second pass, and it's about trust is not lost in the dramatic moment. It is lost in the pattern of small things. If you've not read it yet, link is in the show notes. And on Fridays, your Breaking Bread LinkedIn newsletter closes Q2 with the play worth running before we enter July. It also drops every Friday at 6:45, and the link is in your notes. And going back to last week, episode 70, if you missed it, it's about the spoon and its second pass on the refill discipline. This is a story about my mom at the kitchen table and the 3 categories every leader refills in or pays for skipping. This episode is in your feed as always and worth going back for to revisit if you haven't done so. I want to start today with the part of leadership development that almost no programs address well, and that almost every senior leader eventually has to confront whether they like it or not. Trust is the operating currency of all of leadership. Now, everyone, you can have the right strategy, the right team, the right resources, but if trust and your trust account with your team is empty, none of those other things produce what they should. The work slows. The honesty stops flowing. The performance becomes performance instead of substance. And the leader very often doesn't know any of this is happening because the same trust deficit that produced the slowdown also stopped the team from telling the leader the truth about it. In fact, the hardest part of trust is that it's not the lost way most leaders expect. No, they don't expect to lose it this way. In fact, Marshall Goldsmith has been researching this pattern for decades. And as many of you know, I went through Marshall's stakeholder-centered coaching certification, and his work has informed a substantial part of how I think about behavioral leadership. His finding, accumulated across thousands of executive coaching engagements at the senior levels of major organizations, is consistent. The leaders who derail at the senior levels do not derail because of strategic failures. They do not derail because of technical gaps. They do not derail because they could not handle the scale. They derail because of small behavioral patterns that compounded over time, and that compound until trust is gone. And gone in ways that are very difficult to repair after the fact. The repeated interruption, the credit always seemed to land somewhere else. Dismissive response to a junior idea, the favorite who got attention while others did not. The blame that flowed downward and the credit that flowed upward. The commitment made in good faith and forgotten in the chaos of the next quarter. Do any of these resonate or sound familiar with you? None of these is dramatic in any individual instance. Each one, on a given day, is something the leader could explain away as stress, a one-off, as a minor lapse. The team does not see them as one-offs. The team sees the pattern, and by the time the pattern has been visible to the team for a year, that trust account is empty, and the leader is the last one to know it. If any of this resonates with you, the Leadership Table newsletter goes deeper every Monday on subjects just like this. One element of the place-setting framework, one principle, one single play. It's on Substack, free to subscribe, and this week's piece on the napkin and the close of Q2 is one worth reading. Link is in the show notes. Now let's talk about 5 small trust destroyers most leaders do not see in themselves. The first is called divided attention. The leader who is in the room but not present. Looking at the screen during the conversation, half listening, responding to a different question than the one that was asked. And people notice this faster than the leader even realizes. They stop bringing the leader things that require their real attention. The leader does not get less to deal with. They get less honest picture of what's really going on. The second is credit asymmetry. Credit taken too readily, blame passed too quickly. Most senior leaders don't consciously do this. It happens in the small moments. The team accomplishment that gets framed as the leader's win, the mistake that's characterized as a team gap, and the principle and pattern to all of this is invisible to the leader and obvious to everyone else. The third is the broken small commitment, the follow-up promised and then forgotten, the introduction that was going to happen and never did, the decision that was supposed to be made by Friday and is still pending 3 weeks later. Now, each is forgivable alone. But the pattern teaches the team that the leader says will happen is not actually the predictor of what will happen. The fourth is favoritism that is barely visible. Few extra minutes for one team member, a slightly more positive tone for another. The opportunity that consistently lands is the same direction. The leader who generally believes they treat their team equally is in most cases doing none of these consciously and is quietly building a perception of unfairness that will surface in an exit interview they didn't see coming. And the fifth is dismissed input. Not the explicit dismissal, the subtle one, the slight pause, the shift to a different topic, the acknowledgement that does not actually engage with what was said. The team member who experiences this once shrugs it off. The team member who experiences it repeatedly stops offering. The leader thinks the team has nothing to say, but in fact the team has lots to say. They just stop saying it to the leader. Now, the audit that matters most in any organization is not the audit the CFO runs. It's the audit that the team runs on the leader every single day. The audit produces a verdict. The leader never sees it. The team always has rendered it without ever putting it in writing. Now, AI can run this audit for the leader. AI is good at flagging data inconsistency, but it cannot notice when a leader consistently takes credit, dismisses the same person, or interrupts the same direction repeatedly. Pattern recognition that protects dignity still requires the leader's own honest awareness. This is the work that does not get automated. It belongs to the leader. The cost of skipping it is paid in the trust that drains one small moment at a time. This is the Q2 close. 13 weeks, 7 elements, several on their second appearance. The framework has been built up to work in depth that did not exist when April started. Q3 begins July 6th, and we will move forward through the remaining second pass elements. And by September, every piece of the framework will have been deepened. Now, note for those of you who've been following the work since April, and I just want to take a moment and thank you. That's when we initially launched the place-setting framework and then later started to get into the playbook. You see, this newsletter, the podcast, this work, none of it goes anywhere without all of you. And on July 14th, a Student of Leadership LLC becomes my full-time work. A transition from EVP at Unipro to full-time coaching, content, and the next phase of building this. We will close that doorway and open the next one together. The Leadership Table newsletter is on Substack every Monday when you wake up. This week's piece on the napkin and the Q2 close is there waiting for you. Link is in the show notes. And Friday's Breaking Bread closes Q2 with the play. That link you'll also find right there in your notes. And Q3 starts next Monday. The framework continues. The plays continue. The work gets deeper. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, so you don't miss any of these episodes. And both links are in the show notes. or find your favorite podcast network. And if this episode gave you something, share it with one leader who's closing the quarter and ready to run the trust audit that they've been postponing. Run the play this week, and the play is about repairing the small trust break before it compounds. I want you to pick 3 small behaviors this week. Pick the one you can repair. Repair it visibly before July starts. That is the napkin at its second pass. That is the work. That is the right note as we close out Q2. Thank you for listening to A Student of Leadership. I'm Rob Adams, and I'm still learning too. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of A Student of Leadership. Leadership is about who we become and how we help others grow. If you found value in this podcast, share it with a fellow leader and connect with Rob on LinkedIn or leave a review. New episodes drop weekly, so don't forget to subscribe to stay connected. Until next time, keep learning, growing, and leading with intention. Remember, great leaders are made one habit at a time. See you next time on A Student of Leadership.